Well, Prime Minister Modi is in Italy for the G7 summit. The Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni welcomed Prime Minister Modi with a namaste as he arrived for talks. The two leaders are scheduled to hold a bilateral later today. Prime Minister Modi also held bilateral talks with several world leaders, including Ukrainian President Zelenskyy, French President Emmanuel Macron and UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. In his talks with Zelenskyy, Prime Minister Modi said that the only way to peace is through dialogue. The two leaders were also seen sharing a hug right ahead of the talks. Prime Minister Modi and French President Emmanuel Macron's bonhomie was on full display as both leaders discussed defense, security, technology, AI and blue economy. Prime Minister Modi also later met UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and the two discussed the India-UK Comprehensive Strategic Partnership. All right, that's the latest that is coming in. Of course, then was that big ticket moment as well when the Prime Minister met the world leaders one by one, greeted by Meloni herself, and the latest after that, one bilateral meeting after the other. Those visuals there, which, you know, have now gone viral ever since. All right, let's connect immediately to our our editor of Foreign Affairs, Geeta Mohan, who's joining us from Italy with the latest right now. Geeta, what have been the biggest takeaways on day one?
Well, there have been, this is a one-day visit for Prime Minister Modi. It's day 2 of the G7 summit. There were important meetings yesterday where the focus was Russia, Ukraine. Today, the focus for the G7 is China. But for Prime Minister Modi, it is one outreach session where he's going to focus on artificial intelligence, climate change, technology, Mediterranean, Indo-Pacific, and Africa. Africa, remember, Preeti, was given focus during India's presidency of the G20 when African Union was added as a member of the G20. And since then, we're seeing growing importance and the need and a realization by the world to include Africa in all the conversations that have to do with development. Having said that, Prime Minister Narendra Modi started his day with bilateral meetings with Macron, with German Chancellor Scholz. There are going to be a number of series of other meetings as well, and culminate with Italian Prime Minister Meloni's meeting with him, which certainly will get social media buzz. But the one meeting that was not confirmed and was not announced earlier was this meeting with Volodymyr Zelenskyy, the president of Ukraine. And that's an important one because India holds a very unique position, Preeti. On the one hand, friends with Russia. On the other hand, historical ties with Ukraine. This is an important role for India. It is an important role that India can play over here where the G7 seems to be failing. And this ahead of the Ukraine peace conference that is to take place in Switzerland, where Russia is not invited. So crucial meetings, but we'll have to wait and see what he says at the outreach session, which is to begin shortly.
You know, there's lots of diplomatic messaging as well, Geeta, you know, where, what's at least gone down or what's on the agenda. At one end, you have a very warm hug with President Zelenskyy, which is interesting because that's strong messaging on Prime Minister Modi's account. On the other hand, no bilateral with Canada.
Well, that's an important one. You see, a lot of people are saying that why isn't there a structured dialogue with even the President of the United States of America? And to which I say that there are regular contacts with the U.S. at so many levels. The NSA of U.S., Jake Sullivan, is going to be in India in a week's time. So that's the reason why they only have to meet briefly to show forward momentum. But with Canada, Preeti, the Khalistan issue has certainly soured ties between the two countries. It doesn't seem like it's going to get onto the right track anytime soon. Trudeau himself is looking at elections and certainly a lot of trouble for him. In fact, most of the leaders Prime Minister Modi's meeting are in a lot of trouble in their own respective countries, and they're facing elections. Be it Rishi Sunak, Macron, or for that matter, Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau and President Biden. So it's going to be very interesting. The G7 could look very different next year. And Prime Minister Modi still will be around. So if you look at this forum, with India being invited as a guest country, there is continuum with India rather than the G7 leadership, where you could see a lot of change. So sour ties with Canada. If there's a pull aside or a short brief conversation, we'll get to know about it. But there certainly isn't a structured dialogue either with the Canadian Prime Minister or, for that matter, right now, We're looking at Erdogan as well. So no structured dialogue there.
All right, appreciate you joining us, Geeta. We're going to be back with you shortly. Thank you there. And have a good time. In Italy, my colleague Geeta Mohan, our editor, MEA, External Affairs as well.